guys, my name's Nikolina, or you can call me Niko. This channel is all about architecture, interior design, art, and all the little creative things in between. If that interests you, subscribe and keep following along. Today I'm going to talk about 10 mistakes that I would avoid if I was designing or building a new home. These points might also be useful if you're going out to look for a new home to rent or a new home to buy in the near future. Just a little backstory, I work in the construction industry as an architectural technologist, and these are some things that I've noticed just along the way, or that I've taken note of, and that I would consider if I was going to build or design a new home. Okay, these points are in no particular order, and we're just going to get right into it. So the first mistake that you want to avoid is not including an entrance vestibule, or like a separate entrance area. When designing your house, don't forget to include like a designated entrance area or entrance vestibule, separate than rather just opening your house right in front of the living room or right into the kitchen. So you don't want your front door to open directly into your living room or directly into the living space. You want to have its own like little separate designated area where you could take off your shoes, take off your jacket. Your guests can kind of come in, take off their stuff, and then walk into the living area or your main living space. Whether it's closed off or open, as long as there's like a separate little area. And a lot of homes typically have this, but some homes don't, especially like apartment buildings or small condo buildings. Sometimes I've noticed that some of them open right into the kitchen or living room area, and this can just be a little bit odd for guests or even for yourself, just to kind of walk right into your living space and not have like a separate space. The next mistake that you want to avoid is not considering the placement of your windows. So one of the first things we probably think of when we think of window placement or consider it is natural lighting. So natural light is so important for your eyes and for your well-being. Whether you think you notice it or not, it actually makes a huge difference to your well-being. Basically, you want to be able to get as much natural daylight into your home as you can during the day. You don't want to have to turn on artificial lights during the day to illuminate a space if you can put a window in that space. But it can be easy to also design a space that has too much like unpleasant bright light. This can actually happen to too much contrast. If you have really bright light coming into the window, but then the rest of your space is quite dark, this can also kind of seem unpleasant rather than just having the entire space feel illuminated from the natural light. So here are some elements to consider when you're thinking of window placement and to get good natural light into your space. So light coming in from more than one direction actually minimizes these harsh shadows, and it makes you feel kind of surrounded by the light rather than being engulfed by like a bunch of just bright light in one direction. Rather than just having one big window, maybe have like a few windows in different directions to kind of let light come into the space. So light entering and hitting the top of a room will kind of illuminate the ceiling, and it'll spread through the room more than the light if it was entering at lower levels. This is if your ceiling's white, obviously, and this is why people paint their ceilings like a brighter white. Another thing to consider if you're doing renovations on the outside of your home or if you're building a new home is to include overhangs that project beyond your windows. These will kind of reduce the sharp glare of the sun and the direct sunlight, and it'll kind of mellow out the light that comes into your space. Another thing to consider when we're thinking about window placement is views and privacy. So typically large, full-height windows are best when you overlook the view of a city or the view of a lake, or if you have like a private property area that you want to overlook. But you probably don't want to have these full height or large windows if your house is facing a busy street or right next to your neighbor's property as well. If you are considering windows in these kind of less private areas, you probably want to make them smaller. You want to have the sill higher up on your wall, or you probably want to choose a more translucent material where you can't fully see everything through. Yeah, so I think most people want to have windows where it encourages people to look from the inside to look out, but you don't necessarily want neighbors or people walking in your neighborhood to be able to look into your home. So to do this, you probably would want to place larger windows towards the back of your home where it's more of like a private property, where you have either like a fence or a hedge that would be able to create some privacy. Or if you still want to get a lot of good lighting in that space, but you don't actually want to have any large windows, something like a bathroom, you can include clear story windows, which are windows that are at the top of your wall and they'll just let a lot of light in, but they're so high that you won't be able to see anything inside. The next mistake that you want to avoid is not thinking about the placement of operable windows, which are windows that you can open up and let air in and out of your home and allow for ventilation throughout your home. So considering the placement of these windows can actually make a big difference because it could encourage cross ventilation throughout your home, and actually you want to make sure that you actually carry the stale air out of your home and bring in fresh air. So yeah, not all windows can actually be opened. You have to specify which windows you want to be operable, and because some will come fixed and you won't be able to open them. As a guide, I would have at least one operable window in each room so that you can open it up and let in fresh air. But also, if you're trying to think of ventilation, think of having an operable window on each end of your room so that the fresh air can be carried into your room so that it can ventilate your space and carry out the stale air out the next window. The next mistake that you want to try to avoid is not thinking about storage placement enough. Trust me, you can never have too much storage. I think it's a big mistake when you think of storage placement as an afterthought when you're considering the design of your home. I would suggest pay attention to the details of how you use a space. Consider what you use in the space and where you would typically place them. What's comfortable? What's an easy way that you would be able to grab this item and store this item after you use it? So some things that I'm thinking about where you could design kind of like smart storage is ironing boards and irons. Those are so annoying to take out, set up, and put them back in. So consider how you could store these items in an easy way where you actually might like ironing your clothes. Other little storage things to consider is having a spot in your kitchen where you could store your broom just to sweep up any crumbs or any little mess that you might make. Having enough cupboards in your kitchen. If you have big pots and pans, have big drawers for those pans. Include a space for bins for all your different types of recycling, garbage, and compost. This will just make it so much easier to be able to live in your space. And this brings me to the next point, is that you don't want to neglect your lifestyle. Your home and your floor plan should reflect the way that you live and the way that your lifestyle is. The way that you live your life can make a huge difference in the way that your home is designed. If you like to host dinner parties, maybe this means you'll increase the size of your kitchen or your dining room. But if you're not someone who really has a big family or doesn't have a lot of friends in your town, maybe you want to find a place that actually has an extra bedroom that you can turn into your office. Do you work out from home, or would you want to work out from home? Then maybe instead of making a guest bedroom, turn this into your own workout space. Yeah, and if you do work out from home and it's important for you to work out during the day or you like to work out in the morning, then consider using a space in your floor layout that is close to windows or allows for a lot of natural daylight. Or if you work out at night and you don't really care about having daylight in that space, then you could use a room that's either in the basement or something that doesn't have windows. And this will help you use your space more efficiently if you think about how you would actually like to live in your space. All these little details can really help shape your floor plan and make it super customizable for your lifestyle. These are just little things to consider and not be overlooked when you're looking for a place to rent or a place to buy. The next point is that you don't want to design a space that's either too big or too small for your lifestyle. And this is something that you have to consider and kind of think about in the future, in the next few years of what your life will be like, and if this is the place where you're going to be staying in the next few years. So looking at a plan on paper might be deceiving, so try to think of each room that will be in your home and think about whether you currently or in the future will need more or less of that space. Some signs that you might need a bigger space are if you have a growing family, and this can also mean maybe having like an elderly family member. Some signs that you might want a smaller space if you want to make it easier on yourself to be able to clean up the space. Smaller homes are obviously a lot more easier to clean up, or if it's just going to be you and your partner for the near future. Also think about where you'll be spending most of your time. Maybe you don't need that extra reading room in your home if you know you're actually just going to be reading on the couch a lot. The next mistake that you don't want to make when you're going to be designing or building your home is creating sightlines that are unappealing. So as you're walking through your home, there are views in your home that you want to see and there are views that you don't want to see. So a sightline is a hypothetical line that comes from someone's eye. Basically, it's what someone sees when they're walking through your home. So for example, the garden outside is probably a view that you want to see, but the bathroom is something that you don't want to see. Good sightlines take advantage of pleasant views that you have, and they put these views into focus, and then they also conceal private spaces as much as possible. So you definitely want to take sightlines into consideration when you're planning out your space in your home. Also for bathrooms, avoid having the toilet be the first thing you see when you walk into a bathroom. So you always, when you open the door, you always want to open it into the vanity, the sink, which is a sink or the mirror. You don't want to have it open right into your toilet. Also keep unpleasant storage out of sight. Things that you want in your site is maybe a window that's overlooking your garden, some type of nice architectural feature in your home, or maybe artwork that's just hung up at the end of your hallway, rather than having the door to a bedroom or something at the end of that hallway. The next point is don't overlook noise separation. Like storage, acoustic design can often be an afterthought in architecture and interior design if it's not done properly. So you want to consider acoustic design as you're designing your space. So there's something called situational acoustic design, which is what you want to consider when you're planning out the layout of your space, so that you can avoid spending money on extra acoustic material afterwards to make the space more comfortable. So consider where the loudest noise happens in your home. So let's say if this is your living room where you have a lot of people, then definitely keep your bedrooms on the opposite side of your home from that space. So acoustic design is definitely important to consider in open floor plans, because there's a lot of open floor plans nowadays. And this is also from personal experience. The home that I grew up in was very open planned, and it had the first and second level very open to each other. And the bedroom doors opened up to the stairs and the big 2-story opening in our home. And I found that the noise that would come from the living room would always carry up this 2-story opening and into my bedroom. So, if someone was in the living room and had people over and I wanted to go to sleep, I would always hear the loud noises. If you have a 2-story opening, consider having your bedrooms kind of tucked away into a hallway that can kind of break up the noise a little bit. Definitely group together rooms that you want to have more private or more quieter, and then group spaces or areas together that are more public and would probably be more louder. So like your kitchen, living room, maybe your dining room is also, those areas are a bit more louder, and then your bedroom, your office space are going to be grouped together in another part of your home. This second point is more if you're going to be building your new home, or if you're going to be doing a lot of renovations, or be doing any kind of construction to your home. And the next mistake that you want to avoid is spending most of your budget on the nice finishes in your home and not on good quality building materials for your home. So basically you want to spend more of your budget on the permanent items in your home, and then if you're going to be building a new home, you want to first be able to buy good quality building materials. You want to be able to insulate your home really well. Don't cheap out on insulating your home. Don't cheap out on the floor plan layout. Let's say if you have a load-bearing wall in the middle of your home and it would require you to hire a structural engineer where you would be able to take down that wall and open up the space, I would probably make the investment into that, which is a lot more permanent than focusing on kind of like nice and sparkly interior finishes, which are things that you can always add in later if you don't have the budget for it at the moment. It's easy to get excited about the sparkly finishes and the things that people will see, but things like insulation, where if you have a really well insulated home, can actually save you a lot of money in the long term. Interior finishes can always be replaced over time. And the next mistake that you want to avoid if you're going to be designing or building your new home is that you don't want to overlook your surrounding environment. When you're building your home and you're looking at your floor plan, it can be easy to forget that there's a surrounding environment around your home. But it's obviously important to think about these things, as they will affect the way that you live in your home. How does the sun move on your lot? Do you have any trees on your lot that might be providing shade? Keep in mind what kind of trees they are. Pine trees don't lose their leaves in the wintertime, so those can actually provide privacy or provide shade in the winter months as well. But things like maple trees, maple birch trees and whatnot, where the leaves will fall in the wintertime, they'll be able to let in sun into your home in the wintertime. These are all things to consider and definitely not to be overlooked. So that's all the points that I had to cover. Yeah, and I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.